Hey you, welcome to Rock Paper Shotgun. Listen, are you a fan of those new-fangled computer games? If so, I reckon you've probably heard all about this Elden Ring that everyone can't stop banning on about, haven't you? It's currently the second highest rated game on Opencritic, sharing that prestigious spot with the likes of Red Dead Redemption 2, Grand Theft Auto 5, and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. At the time of recording, it's had a bigger launch than the likes of Horizon Forbidden West, Cyberpunk 2077, and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Suffice to say, Elden Ring is having a bit of a moment. So maybe you're looking at all of this positivity and thinking, hey, maybe it's finally about time I got on board the Souls train, but aren't these games really punishing? How welcoming is Elden Ring to newcomers like me? Well, the answer to that question is sort of tricky. On the one hand, Elden Ring is the most accessible Souls game to date, giving players a wide variety of ways to tackle the game's difficult boss encounters, but on the other hand, this is still very much a Souls game, one that constantly pushes the player to their limits and purposefully keeps basic things frustratingly opaque. So to try and answer this question that's seemingly on everyone's mind at the moment, I sat down with Alice B and Ed T to have a lovely little chinwag about Elden Ring and discuss how welcoming it is to newcomers. We also talk about hot sick, crabs and kebab vans, because of course we do. Enjoy. So all three of us have had very different experiences with Souls games in the past, and I think all three of us also have very different opinions about how welcoming Elden Ring is to new players as well. So let's just start by exploring that a little bit. I've played every Souls game, including Demon's Souls, which I played back at university when it wasn't really a thing, and me and my housemates thought it was one of the worst games we'd ever played because it made zero sense to any of us, which was quite funny. And I've always loved the idea of liking Souls games. I've always been very jealous of people who like them because it seems to be this incredible, almost mythic series of games that people seem to read into more than other titles. So I went into Elden Ring wanting to like it, and I think for the first 2 hours I absolutely hated it. I was dying constantly. I had no idea what was going on. I just wasn't having a good time. But the day after, something clicked and I just kept pushing against it, and eventually I kind of fell onto the other side. And since then, I've actually found it to be difficult as other Souls games, but something's just clicked and changed, and I'm finding myself able to progress and able to tackle it in a way that seems to be allowing me to progress forward. Ed, you've played all of them and you reviewed the game for the site too. What's your experience with Souls games?
Yeah, so I've played them all, I think. 1, 2, 3, etc. So I guess I'm a veteran of sorts. So I kind of came into Elden Ring with quite a lot of experience under my belt, I suppose. And when I played it for sort of preview and the closed betas and all of that sort of stuff, I actually found it much harder than previous Souls games in a strange way. I didn't sort of find there was much difference between me kind of coming in as a total newcomer to being someone who was quite experienced. Like, it was kicking my ass basically. But now that it's fully in my hands and I'd reviewed it and all of that, I've kind of swung the other way. I actually think it is sort of the most accessible Souls for people who've played them before. I think that's just down to kind of the open world and just being able to kind of go off and do other things. If something is just tearing you a new one, you can just go off and find something else to do. So yeah, that's my stance on it, essentially.
I love that this is like debate club.
Yeah, it really is.
I haven't played Sekiro, I haven't played Demon's Souls, but I played the 1, 2 and 3 and Bloodborne, which is my favourite. And I haven't played as much of Elden Ring as either of you, I don't think.
Okay.
I've done a few hours, but I'm still sort of hanging about Limgrave and looking at crabs and what have you. And I've been having the opposite experience.
Oh no.
that I'm finding the open world is just affording me more ways to make mistakes, and I like the comfort of the kind of streets and this sort of slightly narrower options that I got in something like a Bloodborne or a Dark Souls 3. It's like in real life. Like if someone says, do you want to go on a walk? I'm always like, well, what is the end? I need to know where we are walking to, or I will like, and so in Elden Ring, I'm kind of struggling and to sort of feel safe. and I'm not saying, I want to be very clear about this, I'm not asking Elden Ring to change.
Of course. No.
I've seen people saying that they think the tutorial in the sort of first bit is not clearly marked and is hard to find, which I think is a nonsense. I feel like it's got quite standard video game signposting. You know, it's the only bright bit that you can see, and you go and have a look, and it tells you to jump and do the tutorial.
It has a cool ghost that's like,
Yeah.
hey, what's down that pit? You want to go down that pit?
So I think if you missed the tutorial, you've failed at basic human curiosity. But what I am saying, I'm going to do like politician thumb pointing. What I am saying here is that I think positioning this as the most accessible of the FromSoft games and saying, you know, like, oh, this is the one you can get into if you've not played them before kind of thing, is lacking the necessary qualification for if you've not played any Soulsborne games before, that it is still a very difficult, what's the opposite of hand-holdy? There's lack of hand-holding.
Push away?
You know, shoving.
Shoving, yeah.
Shove away. You know, I am challenging the notion that if you've not played a FromSoft game before, you should just take I think you should still consider before you buy it, because I see in the future like people spaffing 70 quid on a game without realizing that it's still going to kick their ass.
So I think that is what I wanted to talk about, because when I chat to a few people who play games that I know but aren't, you know, as savvy as we are and as knowledgeable, they're saying like, oh, well, I've played Skyrim and I played a bit of The Witcher 3. Is it like that? Because they're seeing all of these 9 and 10 reviews, they're seeing the name George R.R. Martin on the side of buses, and they're like, oh, well, this must be, you know, a big, nice AAA game that's getting 9s and 10s. And I'm terrified of the thought of them picking this up and being like, how the hell do I level up? Because if you've played a Souls game before, you understand sort of the rituals you have to go through in order to do things that are normally very clearly signposted. So I think you are right, Alice. I think it's accessible for people who maybe have a little bit of that previous knowledge, which I did have, you know, and all three of us had, because we played these things to some degree before. But yeah, I'm fascinated to see what you two think of, let's say, your mate who loves Skyrim, they turn around and say, hey, should I pick up Elden Ring? What would you say to them?
God.
I don't know. I like my little brother who likes, you know, Call of Duty and stuff, rang me, and he was like, what's this Elden Ring? And I was like, you wouldn't like it. And he was like, all right, sound. Like,
fair. Okay. Yeah, fair.
It would be nice, wouldn't it, if they, because I think the first, like, and I don't know if you agree, Ed, but I think the first sort of half hour, 45 minutes is quite a good, this is what this game is, you know, because you come and you see this lovely, you know, golden tree, and it looks kind of weirdly quite beautiful, but it's still a sort of ruined, slightly desolate land. And then a monster comes up to you and absolutely hammers you into the ground. like a fence post, like a nail into cheese, and then that's the game being like, this is it then, this is, you know.
Yeah.
And it would be nice if that sort of taster experience was offered to people before they committed to buying it, you know.
Yeah, I guess that first bit where you get absolutely hammered by that monster it could be quite overwhelming, though. I think when that gate opens, it's like, right, where do I go? It is quite kind of there's just a lot of avenues to go. You're not really guided anywhere, so I guess that it has got that kind of Dark Souls obtuseness to it. Whereas I think games like, I don't know, Skyrim or The Witcher or something, there will be quest markers that guide you, or even just dialogue boxes when you're chatting to someone. You're just able to press like A to go on to the next one because you know that they're going to say something. Whereas in this, it's like, well, they'll just stop talking and that conversation will end.
Yeah.
And then you've got to initiate it. It's things like that where I came in as someone who'd played Souls before, so I understood that when I was chatting to people, I had to kind of initiate the conversation a lot of the time. Whereas I think for a lot of people, they're not going to know these like weird intricacies, or I suppose they will learn them over time. And I suppose they will also learn that you can go off and you can go open a door and all of a sudden there'll be a catacomb, but that catacomb is still there to kick your ass. Yeah, I don't know. I think it could still be very overwhelming, so I would say that I don't know if I would recommend it to my friends who don't really play lots of games, or mainly play like Fortnite or FIFA or something.
So this is interesting because now we've moved from like, is it accessible to people that haven't played FromSoft games, to like, should people play it if they've not?
I think everyone should have a go at it, because I think that there is something very, very special and interesting here from a design perspective in the way that it communicates things to the player. For instance, Ed and I were just chatting before we started recording about this secret area underneath the forest in Limgrave that's full of horrible crabs and ghost minotaurs, because of course it is, it's a From Software game. And when I got there, I was very early on and I was getting my arse handed to me. I was just getting killed left, right and centre. And it took me about an hour to really realise, I'm in a high level area. And the game's not going to communicate that to me. I need to go away. If you were playing an Assassin's Creed game, if you were level 5, these enemies would have a level 50 above their head, and you'd very quickly be able to say, well, I just need to leave here. And I do think a lot of people might be surprised by how similar it is to other games they've played. It's just going to kind of make you work a little bit harder for it. So I think people should play it, but I think there should be huge caveats, almost like a big sticker on the box that's like, this might not be what you think it is, and really try and stick with it, and you will get really angry. The amount of comments underneath that beginner's guide I did on YouTube where people are like, oh yeah, I spent 10 hours butting my head against this and I didn't know that I had to go back to the church at night to find the witch who'll give me the ashes, and sometimes she's just not there and people have to find her later on in the game. It's just ludicrous.
I think I said saying that Elden Ring is the most new player friendly, or like the most accessible of the FromSoft, the Soulsborne games. It requires huge qualification, because technically eating a bowl of hot sick is the nicer experience of between that and eating a bowl of cold sick. It's like, but you still might not necessarily choose to eat it.
Can I admit something to you? I read your post while I was waiting for my dentist appointment yesterday, and then I was on that table for 3 hours as they were doing it, and it was rattling around my brain. I couldn't stop thinking about the thought of eating hot and cold sick. It just really had a profound effect on me.
Sorry.
No, it's fine, but it's a good metaphor, because I think
Thanks.
you are right. I think you have to have an appetite for it. It's not the right way of saying that, is it?
How long, out of curiosity, did it take? Because you both sort of said that it took you a little while to realise, this is what this experience is going to be. So how long do you reckon it took you, the pair of you?
I would say maybe a couple of hours. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's I think time is it just sinks into this game. But I'd say probably a couple of hours. There's an encampment, I think, quite early on with some knights and stuff, and you can stealth between them all, and there's a map fragment to get. I think that was kind of the point at which I realised that there are multiple ways to play this game, in terms of it's giving the option to stealth, or you can go in all guns blazing. There is a big bit of loot there which you're sort of meant to get, and I guess you can kind of view it from a bird's eye view as well. I think at some point there's a telescope there, and it kind of shows you the lands to kind of get a better sort of perspective on just other stuff that is around you, rather than just following the floaty graces / bonfires. So I'd say it did take a while. 2 hours is a fairly long time, I think, to get into a game. Not like half an hour or something.
Took me about 4 hours. The second it really clicked for me was when I realized I could jump and attack and then run away before this specific enemy could get me. So basically, it was as soon as I realized that I didn't have to play by the rules that I thought Elden Ring was imposing on me. It was the second I realized I could cheese it slightly. The same thing happened a bit with Bloodborne when I played that. I think it was Father Gascoigne.
Yeah.
Gascoigne, yeah. I realized I could trap him behind a gravestone and kill him that way. But so when I realized that I could jump and I could get an advantage, then that really clicked. And then the combat system in general of being able to roll away, like the rhythm of it, I think once I got the rhythm of it after 4 hours or so, it suddenly clicked. But like Ed says, you know, if I said to someone, hey, you should watch this TV show that's an hour per episode, but you have to watch the first 4, I think it'd be well within the other person's right to say, I'm not watching 4 hours of something before it clicks. Like, that's a ridiculous time investment. And when you put the £70 label on it as well, it becomes a very different prospect, doesn't it?
Yeah. Whenever stuff like this comes up, it always makes me think of a bit that Dara O'Brien did like years ago, the comedian, because he likes video games, and he has a very good bit where he talks about how basically like there is no other kind of type of media that you can be like so bad at that you can't continue consuming it. Like if you're reading a book, like that at no point will a book like go boom and shut itself and be like, what are the major themes of the book so far? And if you don't know, you won't be able to read the rest of it. Which
that's so funny.
Yeah, I think is very true. But again, I don't want Elden Ring to change. No. But it is. I feel like all the stuff that it's doing to be more accessible is just it's just stuff that normal games. It's just making it like a bit more normal rather than making it like actually like a normal game. Do you know what I mean? Like it's got tooltips. Oh my god.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you can jump and the amount of excitement that you can jump in this game. It's 2022. Do you know what I mean? And everyone's like, oh, you can lift your feet off the floor and travel a vertical distance. Hooray! But yeah, I do agree. I think it's a wonderful, incredible game. But if you're looking at these scores, if you're on Opencritic and you're like, oh, it's only 1 point behind Mario Odyssey, and you're like, oh, that must be within the same caliber. And it is. I think it is. As a game, it's a fantastic, wonderful experience that I think all of us are getting something out of. But yeah, I don't know. I think you really have to do a little bit of reading and really see if you have a stomach for it before you drop that 70 bones on it.
I will say that like its frustrations it's going to sound really silly actually, but I'd say that the frustrations, like the kind of having to look up stuff to, I don't know, complete a quest, or I don't know, when you realise that you may have missed something. I actually think that's part of like the journey of discovery. With
100%.
With these Souls games, I quite like going back, even if it is a bit annoying that you've missed something or whatever. It's quite cool to go back online and to see something that you might have missed and how to do it and where to find it. It's kind of like a weird learning process with these games, that you kind of pick up their quirks by doing reading, like extra work, like almost like homework. So yes, like it might put you off, but try not to let it, I'm going to sound like a teacher or something, try not to let it kind of put you off, just sort of learn from it, and you will you will get there eventually. It's like sort of a weird commitment, like a weird relationship with a game, I think.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
have no idea how you played it before there were any guides that existed for review.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I did either. There were times when I was like, I don't know where I am or what I'm meant to be doing here. This is terrifying. I can't beat this boss. I can't call upon anyone here for help. Like, I have to figure this out for myself. Which was...
But I love it. What a rush.
Yeah, but I was like, yeah, this is great, because I'm like on my own like journey, my own adventure sort of thing. It felt quite cool to kind of be in just a few little adventurers into this horrible land and trying to figure it out myself. Also, on that note, there weren't many like messages, online messages, when you're sort of playing online. There's like little white messages that will pop up, and they're sort of player left, I suppose. and they'll be like, a lot of them are quite rude, like try finger butthole and things like that. But often they're quite helpful, and I became incredibly reliant on that. I that's another thing with accessibility is these messages can actually be very helpful. Like the community can help you whilst you're playing. So they may not spoil things, but they'll certainly warn you of cliff edges and bosses that are coming up, and may provide some helpful tips on how to beat things. And I thought that's quite a cool thing about these games. And it was a strange thing to have missing when I was playing it before it came out. I didn't realize how reliant I was on it.
I started a new save after it came out officially, and it's like a completely different game with those messages. And there is something to be said as well about how the game itself might be quite abrasive and pushes you away, but then it has a lot of tools that lets people come into your world and help. You have the summoning system. You do have the messages, although I will say I think 95% of them just say try finger butthole. I don't think or they just say dog in front of every single animal that's roaming around.
Pickle ones as well.
And what I will say to anyone who's starting for the first time, don't gesture in front of closed doors. Every single one of those messages is just trying to wind you up, and there's 1,000 of them as well.
Let's exhort the Elden Ring community to just improve the chat. Just to have better bans.
Yeah, please have better bans. Please stop telling me to hit every single wall.
Because I'll still do it.
Oh yeah, same every single time. I don't even know if there are illusionary walls in this game, but what if there is one? So I think in general we're all kind of on the same page then, even though we've come from such different angles here, and that's the game is better than other Souls games for new players, but it is still very much a Souls game, and that comes with a big asterisk after it. And that's if you're brand new, if you're not sure whether it's for you. I don't know. What do you think people should go back to earlier Souls games first if they're cheaper on Steam? Do we think that maybe people just need to watch some YouTube videos?
Watch YouTube videos, but of like Elden Ring fails, not because if you watch YouTube videos of like speedrunners or like no hit or like it's gonna look easy.
Yeah, true.
And it's really not. So watch clips and videos of people screwing up.
Maybe I'll just put video footage of all of just an uninterrupted bit of me failing repeatedly against one boss for 25 minutes.
Yeah, do that.
Just to prove to people what it's like.
I would say potentially try Dark Souls 2, because I think that's the one that matches up most with Elden Ring out of all of the series.
Really?
Mainly because it's just a massive hodgepodge of areas that aren't really. I suppose Elden Ring is very like thematically it all works in unison, whereas in Dark Souls 2 it's just like there's just like forests, and there's just like caves, and there's just like, I don't know, Terry's doner kebab truck or something. There's just like so much random like stuff everywhere. It's just this big sprawling world which you can like teleport between things, like it's very scattered, and it's still tough as nails. So actually I'd say you could use Dark Souls 2 as kind of like a training gauntlet before Elden Ring, because I would say it's like less accessible Elden Ring, I suppose, and it's still a lot of fun. It's just, I think you'll go from Dark Souls 2 to Elden Ring and it'll be like a breath of fresh air, because Elden Ring will sort of feel a lot more, I don't know, closely intertwined, and the story will make a lot more, well, I say a lot more sense. It will make some sort of sense. So, and there's just more options to kind of go back to and things like that. So yeah, that's my advice, I would say.
My final thought that I'd like to make very clear for the comments is that I think we all think Elden Ring is a very, very good game, and none of us are arguing it should be easier.
Oh, they'll be there regardless, Alice. There's nothing we can do to stem the flow. Would Terry's kebab van in the world of Souls, it would sell octopus liver kebabs, and the owner would just laugh at you as he handed it over to you, wouldn't he?
Oh yeah, no, it would. It would be run by like a giant crab.
Oh, God.
I know you mentioned actually before this video that you had a fear of these crabs in the game, but I feel like it would be run by one, because they're just horrible creatures in this.
100%. Yeah. No, I actively think that this game has given me a phobia of shellfish because of the crabs in the bottom area of Limgrave. Just rancid creatures that I don't have time for now. Oh, the way they chase you? No, not into it. Not into it at all. So there we have it. Elden Ring is a masterpiece, but it won't be for everyone. This is a game that is punishingly difficult and purposefully withholding, but if it clicks, it really, really clicks. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.